A hell of a month for the self-proclaimed super mayor Tiffany Henyard. Early last week, her top advisor, Keith Freeman, who is the administrator for both the Thornton Township and the village of Dalton, was indicted for...
It started as whispers, an offhand remark, a slip that was never meant to be noticed. Yet by the time Keith Freeman faced official accusations, the secret was already widespread. The man who once stood firmly alongside Dalton's top power player, Tiffany Henyard, had turned into the subject of hushed gossip and striking headlines. Freeman, formerly Henyard's closest confidant, had now become the symbol of shame in a community already.
Long coming. If a person can lie on their own financials, what do you think they're doing for the village? Nobody is untouchable. That's what I want to say. Nobody is untouchable. So if this is just the first domino to all of them falling, let it happen.
Swept up in a rising scandal, federal prosecutors finally drew a line. The allegation? Bankruptcy fraud. But this wasn't about a minor paperwork error or a few lost receipts. This was far more severe. The U.S. Attorney's office claimed Freeman intentionally concealed assets and falsified his income. In a world ruled by numbers, Freeman simply didn't add up. People soon began connecting dots that were never meant to be linked. On January 3, 2024, he filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, declaring an almost unbelievable income, just over $5,800 from his job at Thornton Township. But payroll records revealed a very different truth. Across Dalton, Thornton Township, and several side gigs, Freeman had many more income sources than he admitted. From Dalton alone, he was earning over $3,800 every 2 weeks. Do the math, and his actual yearly income exceeded $150,000. Yet on official documents, he insisted it was less than $6,000. How does someone afford a decent apartment on that? Drawing paychecks from both Dalton and Thornton Township, Freeman was making far more than he reported. His claim that he only worked for Thornton Township was contradicted by Village of Dalton payroll records, showing biweekly payments of $3,800 as recently as October. Here's the catch. Freeman was classified as a 1099 contractor, meaning he avoided paying taxes and Social Security on much of that income. He could lie about his finances all he wanted, but what about the village? What were they really getting? No one is untouchable. That's the key lesson here. If this is just the first domino, it could trigger a cascade of fallout, and that's exactly what needs to happen. Freeman is a critical figure in our ongoing coverage of Tiffany Henyard due to his many connections to her. Beyond his roles at Dalton and Thornton Township, he once served as the registered agent for the Tiffany Henyard Cares Foundation. But that foundation? It doesn't appear to exist in any meaningful capacity in Illinois. While Henyard's charity claims to support cancer patients, WGN Investigates found that most of its initial funding came from taxpayers, and it has repeatedly failed to submit required financial reports detailing how those funds were spent. Why won't they answer questions? Why has the charity not filed any financial disclosures? That's not just suspicious, it could be criminal. But Freeman's deceit went even further. He submitted a fabricated 2022 tax return to the bankruptcy trustee, portraying himself as barely scraping by, when in fact he hadn't filed taxes at all that year. Meanwhile, the village of Robbins stepped forward with its own charges. Freeman had been overpaid nearly $10,000 during his time as their administrator. One fraud led to the next. For those paying close attention, this was no shock. It was the inevitable next chapter in a disturbing pattern. Freeman's record was filled with red flags, including a previous felony. Now, a high-ranking administrator for both Dalton and Thornton Township faced fraud charges tied to an alleged bankruptcy scam. Meanwhile, the village had finalized negotiations with police patrol, lieutenants, and sergeants. At a recent village board meeting, Freeman sat beside the embattled Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard, discussing finances. The U.S. Attorney accused Freeman of concealing assets and income from creditors, with a possible prison sentence of up to 5 years if convicted. We reached out to Freeman and Dalton officials, but have yet to receive a response. This wasn't Freeman's first run-in with the law. His past includes a 2005 fugitive warrant and a 2011 arrest. But what hurt most was Henyard's fierce defense of him. even refusing background checks that might have exposed his history earlier. It begs the chilling question, who else was she protecting? Freeman wasn't just an employee, he was part of Henyard's inner circle, Dalton administrator, Thornton Township manager, and registered agent for her foundation. Wherever Henyard went, Freeman followed. And that foundation, supposedly helping cancer patients but mostly funded by taxpayers, never filed the paperwork to show how the money was spent. Emails went unanswered. Reporters hit a brick wall. Then today, Freeman pleaded not guilty to federal bankruptcy charges, while also being named in a separate lawsuit against the village and Mayor Henyard. His attorney told reporters the spotlight on the bankruptcy case was unusual and denied any claims Freeman was cooperating with investigators. Yet Henyard stood by Freeman until she didn't. As pressure mounted, Freeman disappeared from his position. Rumors spread. Was he flipping for the feds? Then quietly, a letter arrived. Thornton Township officially fired Freeman on July 9th, citing repeated absences and misconduct. The tone was blunt and final. Your misconduct harms the township's operations. We are public servants, not self-serving. But Freeman stayed on Dalton's payroll. Meanwhile, Henyard kept trying to control the narrative. Her board meetings exploded into shouting matches. Trustees demanded answers for unexplained expenses, costly cakes, excessive Amazon orders, huge budgets for one-day events. Thousands vanished with no explanation. Henyard defended every penny, accusing critics of being motivated by hate and resentment toward a young black woman in power. But her defiance only made things worse. At one meeting, Freeman sat beside her, nodding and smiling, pretending all was normal. The very same Freeman who swore under oath he wasn't paid by Dalton. The same Freeman accused of funneling $195,000 through a pass-through company to hide his real income. Just like that, what began as a financial probe turned into something far more disturbing. This came just one day after Freeman was sued along with Mayor Henyard by a Dalton property owner who claims he was unfairly denied a business license. When Keith Freeman told me he'd get me all the permits and help me start working on my property, I believed him. But the next time I saw him, he asked, "Who are you? Do I know you?" Tyrone Easom wanted to open a barber shop, then a pigmentation studio at that location. But he says the building inspector told him Henyard blocked the project. According to Easom, Henyard didn't want anyone owning those properties because she wanted the land for herself. That's the story in a nutshell. A complete mess with a mayor acting like she owns every inch of the town and controls every move. Henyard's spokesperson has yet to respond to our request for comment on the lawsuit. Last month, Henyard claimed once again she's the victim of critics determined to bring down Dalton's first black female mayor. Her close ties to Freeman, who's also under scrutiny, have only fueled the fire around their leadership. Good evening. Tonight's meeting was tense. Supervisor Henyard clashed repeatedly with trustees over finances and spending, accusing some of spreading falsehoods. Please tell me how I'm out of order, she demanded. How do trustees operate? There were many moments like this, heated debates, raised voices, and no new budget in sight. Several trustees questioned much of the township's spending, while Henyard insisted she'd cleaned up the finances. You all thought I was young and dumb that I'd let you manipulate me. I didn't. So you started this smear campaign. During the 3-hour meeting, Henyard forced Finance Director Robert Hunt to read through more than 100 line items trustees wanted cut. These included thousands spent on Amazon, $169.99 here and there, cakes from local bakeries for community events, and tens of thousands allegedly set aside for one-day festivals like the Taste of Thornton Township. After recent events, trustees voted to cancel upcoming festivals, including Housefest and Gospelfest. Henyard accused them of acting out of spite. Right now, you're operating with hatred in your hearts. You're acting on feelings, not facts. That's not fair to us, and I don't understand why it's a problem when we have a surplus. Freeman wasn't just deceiving creditors. He was betraying the community he was supposed to serve. In doing so, he became the symbol of everything wrong with Henyard's administration. The people of Dalton weren't blind. They showed up and spoke out. Some were denied business licenses, allegedly because Henyard wanted the land for herself. One man said Freeman promised permits but later pretended not to know him. This wasn't just negligence, it felt personal and vindictive. Lawsuits piled up and the media circled like vultures. Former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot was hired to investigate and dropped a bombshell. Dalton faced a $365 million deficit. Credit card abuse, secret spending, zero accountability. Henyard, still defiant, called it all lies. But voters weren't buying it. In the 2025 primaries, she was crushed, winning only 12% of the vote, a stunning political collapse. Yet she stayed in the spotlight, posting videos insulting critics, dodging interviews, and going silent on questions about a Vegas trip where her assistant alleged sexual assault by a trustee. The Illinois Department of Human Rights launched an investigation. Henyard went quiet. Meanwhile, Freeman, now indicted, pleaded not guilty. His lawyer called the media attention unusual for a bankruptcy case. But speculation ran wild. Was the government pressuring him to flip on Henyard? Was he the first domino to fall? Freeman waived discharge of his bankruptcy debts, a move many saw as a tactic to lessen the heat. Porter, politicians could answer those questions in countless ways. But I've got the tea with receipts. If you want the truth, get it from me. Instead of answering reporters, Henyard makes videos attacking opponents. Larry the liar, she calls them. Stop it. She throws insults but never explains the spending, the leadership failures, or the lack of transparency. This story isn't just about money or corruption, it's about personality. And Tiffany Henyard doesn't like being challenged. She shows this attitude at nearly every village board meeting, especially when opposition trustees push for more transparency about village vendors and bills before agreeing to sign off. But Freeman's reputation was already shattered. The man who once sat at the heart of Henyard's power circle had become the weakest link. Worse yet, more troubling stories emerged. Freeman allegedly kept collecting pay from Dalton even after being fired by Thornton. While technically legal, his actions crossed every ethical line a public servant should never approach. Dalton residents began asking, if this is what he was hiding, what else haven't we seen? At town hall meetings, tempers flared. Residents demanded change, called for resignations, and challenged the system that allowed Freeman and Henyard to operate unchecked for so long. Through it all, leadership stayed silent, deafeningly so. There was no redemption for Freeman. He wasn't some tragic hero. He was part of a machine prioritizing personal gain over public trust. His indictment wasn't just a legal blow, it was a wake-up call that echoed through every taxpayer-funded cake, every unanswered email, every blocked business license. The fall of Keith Freeman wasn't his alone. It was Tiffany Henyard's. It was Dalton's. And it sent a message to every official who thought no one was watching. Tonight, more drama in Dalton. Unexplained credit card charges totaling thousands and millions more owed to vendors. A bombshell report exposes just how deep the village's financial troubles run. Casey Cronus is live with the details. Casey? Thanks, Don and Scott. Community members were stunned during tonight's presentation. The report, compiled by former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, hired by village trustees in April as an independent investigator, uncovered alarming truths about Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard's alleged misuse of village funds. As of May 31st, the village's general fund, which covers most expenses, is $3.65 million in the red. With multiple lawsuits and federal investigations underway, Henyard's political future looks increasingly uncertain. Will she finally face the music, or will residents suffer more? Time will tell. The people of Dalton are speaking louder than ever. What comes next remains unclear, but one thing is certain. They've had enough and aren't afraid to say so. More indictments could be coming, and investigations may widen. Henyard, already politically wounded, might not survive. But if this saga teaches us anything, it's that silence only hides the truth for so long. Don't forget to smash that like button. Drop your thoughts in the comments and hit subscribe so you never miss a scandal, twist, or jaw-dropper we uncover. Around here, the truth doesn't just come out. We drag it into the spotlight. Stay curious, stay bold, and I'll see you in the next one. Recently, suburban Dalton residents got a chance to speak out about the controversy surrounding embattled Mayor Tiffany Henyard. Complaints include sexual harassment, retaliation, discrimination, and a controversial trip to Las Vegas last May. NBC's Regina Waldrip reported from tonight's special Dalton Village Board meeting, where a concerned community demanded answers. "Know you're going to ask for an investigation," one resident said, "and I'm hoping that means the administration will have nothing to do with it." Mayor Henyard was absent from the meeting. She and an unnamed village trustee are at the center of an Illinois Department of Human Rights probe focused on allegations stemming from that May economic development trip. Henyard's former assistant, who filed the complaint, alleges she was sexually assaulted by the trustee on that trip. NBC is withholding the woman's name to protect her privacy.